Welcome to the Flagship podcast. I'm excited. Today we have a special guest from the Leadership Academy of Madison County, Dr. Jesse Reynolds. Hello, sir.
How's it going today?
It is going well. Thank you for making the time. So Dr. Jesse Reynolds here. Me and him have met over the past, what is it now? Probably only 6 months to a year, but slowly getting to know each other. I'm actually on the journey with him in Leadership Academy, so it's been a fun year so far. But yeah, I mean, first
I
question.
hope you're not saying that because I'm sitting here, but
yeah, totally not. Yeah. No, let me start off with this, Jesse. So I know a little bit about your story, but maybe whoever's listening doesn't know. Maybe they've never met you, don't know anything about you. So I want you to set the stage for us.
Okay.
Tell us about yourself. Why Anderson? Why are you here in Madison County? What do you do exactly, and why do you do it?
Yeah, appreciate it. So I'm from Anderson, born and raised. I went to Anderson Community Schools. It's my whole entire, educational career while we were here. And so I graduated from Highland High School 2007. I played basketball at Highland.
Were you a good student?
I was a great student.
You're a great student. Okay.
Yeah, I was a great student. I also ran track here and there, competed in high jump, long jump. Essentially, that story is a story of athleticism, but not from the space of, the typical athletic story. It was a tool for me to stay occupied, to give myself something to set goals for and to aspire towards.
Yeah.
We know, there's practice after school. There's something to go and participate in to help build community. There's games, but then there's also camaraderie that you build with, teammates. And so I use that as a tool to connect, but also I think basketball, you have an in-depth conversation with a lot of athletes. It helped chart a path and pave a way for a lot of individuals. So I went off to Bradley University, Peoria, Illinois.
Yeah.
I did my undergrad there. Once I graduated, came back home for a few days, really couldn't find work. And so I moved to Indianapolis. My now wife and I.
Give us a timeline. Like, how long ago was that?
It was about 12 years ago.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
So I actually met my wife in the 6th grade at Eastside Elementary School.
There we go.
We've been partners since. Obviously, we had on and off time as couples along that journey would.
Totally.
But we recognized that we were still playing a significant role in each other's lives. And so we, decided to tie the knot. From our union, two beautiful children. My son's birthday was actually yesterday, January 10th.
Congratulations. Happy birthday.
Appreciate it. And so why Anderson? Why Madison County? I'm an Anderson product, born and raised here.
Okay.
I've always felt the tug to move back home, not just to be here, not just to say this is home, but to participate and be a piece of the puzzle to help redefine what Anderson is and what Anderson can be. But on a larger scale, I believe if there's a strong Anderson, there's a strong Madison County. It's the seat of the county, and so there's an opportunity here to do some amazing work. We have some amazing people here. There's some amazing stories about our community and its resilience.
Sure.
And so
yeah.
I want to champion that story as well. So that's why we decided to come back home.
And how long have you been home?
Been home 3 years.
Okay.
And that journey coming back home, the Leadership Academy opportunity opened up, and we put our hat in the ring, and the rest is history. So
here we are.
That's how we got here. Yeah.
Okay. No, thanks for sharing. Thanks for giving context. So what? How do I ask this? What makes you passionate about leadership? Yeah. Or actually, let me rewind even further. Hold on. I'm sorry. I'm getting ahead of myself.
Okay.
When did you know you were a leader?
I always say that leadership is both science and art. And so the art form of leadership is your connection to people. It's the relationships that you form, the components that help drive community service, community service aspect.
Yeah.
What you do for others, that's the art form.
Okay.
The science of leadership, the policies, the procedures, the operations.
Sure.
Those kind of components, right? So I think my leadership emerged through basketball.
Okay.
Just being appointed team captain, winning awards, etc. However, I won't necessarily just link it all to basketball. Family learning and family values are, poured into you, and so I was the oldest of my siblings, and so just from the nature of being the first one, you start having to lead in a certain way, and so I've always found it important to make sure I project a certain image, but also realizing that I have, siblings that are under me and following in footsteps. So I knew early on that there was some form of a leadership context.
Sure.
What that was, we continue to grow into that, but I think early on that was for me.
Yeah, and so I heard a little of both of this, so I'm curious, so do you feel like leadership is more nature nurture?
I think it's nurture.
You think it's nurture?
That's just I'm no expert in that.
I mean, you're a doctor.
I'm no expert in that. And I say that because through what we do at the Leadership Academy.
Yeah. I had a feeling you would say that. That's why I had to ask.
We nurture leadership skills. Certainly individuals come with leadership training, leadership capabilities. Totally. But our role is to help develop those skills and make those connections and help build those relationships.
Sure.
And I think that's a product of what the Leadership Academy is.
Okay. So you came back to Madison County about 3 years ago. You're now the executive director of the Leadership Academy here. But again, it's been a long road of you even developing your own leadership. As you said, you saw it back probably when you were in high school,
right,
doing your thing. And so maybe are there any times in your journey that really come to mind that you're like, this was like a pivotal moment that helped really develop and nurture that leader inside of me that maybe clicked something?
Yeah, absolutely. I think quite often loss is a way to grow those skills, and I want to be careful in how I say that. Not that we wait for a loss to lean into it, but sometimes those moments in life can inspire you in different ways. And so I lost my grandfather when I was in, I think, the 5th grade, but in his passing, he left me with a very strategic conversation. He gave me a responsibility, and so I've always wanted to honor him through his words and the last words that he left me with. And so my life's goal or my life's passion has been centered around making sure I honor my grandfather. And that's kind of transpired or transitioned into, a life of service, wanting to help others, a passion for being connected to people. So I think it can be born out of circumstances like that, but then also, I can reflect on, moments of, what I would call struggle in school. Being in college, it was a different experience than what high school was.
Oh, totally was. Anybody who tells you college is like high school, it's nothing like it.
But you take those opportunities and that present themselves, those challenges, and you try to build on them, and that helps to build character. So a combination of those things.
You can totally not answer this question.
Okay.
What was that piece of strategy or that wisdom that your grandfather left with you?
Some of it is, I won't go verbatim what he told me, but a lot of it is family centric, to respect the family values, but also recognize that if there's a goal or an opportunity to pursue, it rests on your shoulders to go after it. And so, yes, people can open doors for you and
Sure.
people can help you get into rooms, but it's also your responsibility to make those connections. So, just in general, taking full advantage of your opportunities, but also trusting and believing you have what it takes to show up in those spaces. So,
yeah, I mean, you're hitting on something very powerful. Self-responsibility.
yeah,
It's not a thing these days.
right.
Every problem a lot of us have is somebody else's problem or somebody else's fault. Yeah, why do you think that's not as common anymore? Self-responsibility, or even family responsibility, because I would even say, like, probably counter to you, I had a problem with not wanting to, think of those family values and all those different things. I had a bad relationship with my father, and the thing that surprisingly pushed me back towards family was going back to loss, was when my dad was passing away. He was sick for years, and there was an opportunity. None of our family members wanted to care for him or be with him, and I was 19 when I became his caregiver, and it was just, I don't know what came over me at the time, but there was something about that, walking my dad through that transition of being sick to then passing away, that changed me completely, and flipped on a switch of not just personal responsibility, but responsibility for family, those values, and for others. Because I mean, I was the kid who, I flunked out my freshman year. I graduated high school with I think it was like a 2.1 GPA.
Okay.
I was scraping, man. Never didn't think I'd ever go to college, and then years later, I found faith, found Jesus, and my pastor was like, "You should think about the college thing." And I fought him on it for years, and then, it was something clicked through that process. So I share that because it's like, for me, I was not a self-responsible, family responsible. I didn't care about family values, anything like that. And I think that's the majority of maybe our generation, majority of maybe not even our generation, but the world these days. It's always somebody else's problem.
Yeah, I think the experience is also based in how we see ourselves in community. Like, what is your role in community? If you don't see yourselves as a part of the bigger picture or the puzzle of community, then how do you buy into it?
Yeah.
Like, if there's no connection to community or a bigger picture or connection, you don't want to be connected to that.
Why be a part of it?
So I think that, as much as it is, the context that you mentioned, I think it's also educating on what your role is and where do you fit in. And it's not necessarily fitting yourself into a box, but like, how do you impact? What is your impact? What are you bringing? What are you giving? How are you serving others around you? If we have that foundation to build from, that helps to establish values, that helps to establish a culture that's not all about myself. And then you can realize that, hey, I've got some responsibility in this too. You either buy in or you find something else to do, I guess. So
Yeah, no, that's an interesting point. It's I would say, like, when I think back to my time as a young man, like, the reason that I probably was those ways was exactly what you were saying. It was, I didn't have a place. I felt like a nomad. I felt like a anarchist at times, and I thought that was me against the world.
Yeah. So one of the key features of community development work is placemaking.
Okay. Well, what do you mean by placemaking? Tell me a little bit about that.
So I'm going to go two ways with it.
Okay.
Placemaking, in the normal sense of community or economic development, would be your parks, your centers, the spaces where people will go to live life and do life, whether that is work, whether that is a play, or just community activity. But placemaking is also where you show up to be you If you don't have a place to show up to be you, it's difficult to participate in the rest of the community engagement components. And so when you were saying, my challenge may have been not having a place.
Yeah.
Where was the place? If you're not connected to it, it just becomes that much more challenging. And life is already filled with twists and turns and ups and downs and bruises and bumps. Regardless of story and experience, sometimes we're often told to just dust it off and keep going.
Yeah.
Some people don't have that experience to do that. So
sure. So yeah, the philosophy of place. That's an intriguing one.
Yeah.
So how do you think?
I could get biblical on that, but I won't.
You can get biblical.
When we think about Adam and Eve,
sure,
there was a place where they were planted. Okay, their role and responsibility in life was to that place originally. Okay, and then they were supposed to expand from that place. So we all have a place in which we can thrive and experience life. Doesn't mean you can't go other places.
Sure.
But there's some role and responsibility in the place where you are to contribute. You don't understand your role in that space or that place, then how can you really contribute? And so that's what I'm saying. It's two separate place-making opportunities.
Sure. So for somebody who maybe is listening that finds themselves in a place that they aren't in their place or they don't feel connected to their place, I feel like people I've met in our community that definitely feel like that.
Right.
What's the process? What do you think helps them begin to discover that for themselves?
I would say the first is prayer, the second is service.
Okay. Well, let's open the can of prayer. Let's talk about prayer for a second.
Yeah. So regardless of what your faith experience is, sometimes expressing it turns on a connection inside of you that starts to move things, and you can start building on it from there. And then the service is just the getting involved piece, because once you start getting involved, you may see how other components can get connected.
Yeah.
Now you can pull in different resources or different individuals. You can serve your time in a different way than maybe you originally thought, but it's still meaningful. So that service component helps us to get engaged.
No, that's really good. It seems like I'm gonna throw a flashback at you if that's okay.
Yeah.
So I had to do my due diligence and look some stuff up, do some research, and so there was a publication that came up called "The Truth Behind a Lie: The Road to Commitment."
Uh-huh.
And a lot of what we're talking about seems to have some similarities with, again, that idea of commitment. It's committing to a place. It's committing to yourself, committing to a family, all those different things. Tell me about that publication.
So I wrote this book while I was in college.
Okay.
And I started it, I believe it was my junior year. And I was going through a phase where I started to recognize I'm not going to be a college student forever.
Okay. That's a good recognize.
This is
the eternal college students do exist.
This is winding down. This time is at Bradley is winding down, and I took some of the learnings, not just what we talked about in class from a business and economics and accounting perspective, but being a college student, connecting with the professors, connecting with colleagues and other students. Going out searching for a job, an internship, but also being 4.5 hours away from home. What's the balance of being connected to family and maintaining those values that, my grandfather spoke to me about?
Yeah.
So the book deals with that.
Okay.
But also like graduating from college, you start going into a world where become this adult. There's bills,
Hopefully.
There's responsibilities, There's other things that come with that process. And so it talks about how this is a road, this is a process, right? That we need to maintain identity and purpose, how do you keep commitment to it when you're still learning who you are?
Yeah.
But maintaining the things that are important to you.
Yeah. You know, it's really cool hearing about that. I mean, it looks like that was 2011.
Yes.
Yeah. And so hearing that, but then even hearing the conversation we're already having today, it seems like something's been instilled in you very thoroughly.
Yeah.
It's not just segmented where like, oh, this is a season of now I'm thinking about this. It's like, now this is ingrained in you.
Yeah.
This is really built into the fabric of, seems like, Dr. Jesse Reynolds.
I appreciate that. I mean, it's all family values, and it builds on how we connect with our family, but also family isn't necessarily just immediate family.
Sure.
It's family in community. It's family at church. And while I don't necessarily like the phraseology of referencing work as family, you spend a lot of time at work.
You do.
Yeah. And so there's relationship dynamics that play out at work. And so if we can uphold important values, they can play off each other, whether that's community work, that's the physical being at work, being at home, and otherwise. So
if you don't mind, talk to me a little bit more about that idea of family value, because I come from a very broken family. I've alluded to that a little bit. A lot of people in Madison County come from broken families. Either, at times we have been the cause of that brokenness, and at other times we've just been the victim. I think it's this vicious cycle when you find yourself a part of a broken family. And so when I hear family values, I'm probably like a lot of people go on a little bit on guard. I just the honest truth. And so I don't know. Share a little bit more about that, like concept of family values and why you find it so valuable.
Yeah. So I think there's several components and several teachings on what makes a strong family and what keeps a family thriving. Obviously, there's a base of communication that occurs. But in that book you referenced, The Truth Behind the Lie, The Road to Commitment, I talk about 4 things: values, expectations, goals, and expressions. And so I say, just as, read the word quickly, it looks like veggie. It's like the vegetables are important to your body, so it's this acronym, veggie, important to relationship. So values, expectations, goals, and expressions. So whatever those values are, make sure that it's adequately communicated.
Yeah.
And expectations in any relationship, especially in the work environment.
Yeah.
There's expectations.
Clear ones. Clear ones.
You got to show up and do your job.
Yeah.
But if you're not clear about those expectations, it makes it hard to buy into that place.
Yeah.
And it creates other challenges. Goals. If there aren't any goals, it's hard, again, to connect and buy in.
Sure.
And if those goals are seen as too lofty goals, like if it's something we can't reach, it makes it hard to really buy in because you don't feel like you could ever get there.
Yeah.
You don't want the goals to be things you can just walk out right now and do. They've got to be somewhat challenging, but they also have to be realistic. And then, expressions, the way we communicate.
Yeah.
The way you and I express in this moment may be different than the way you express with your first guest, may be different than you express with the 10th guest.
Sure.
Expression could be this verbal communication, the ways you may write some things.
Yeah.
But being clear about those 4 things, can help establish relationship and help to build community as well.
No, that's really good. We're surprisingly coming up on time.
Okay.
Time runs fast in this room. And so we have about probably like 10 minutes left. And so I do want to spend some time talking about currently what you do, because I'm finding it impactful. So I shared a little bit earlier, everybody, but I'm a part of the Leadership Academy class of I guess is it 24?
Yeah, 2024. Yeah.
I started in 23 though, so but we are the best class ever, and now it's recorded, and so it's real, and so but no, I want you to share a little bit about that, because for those who are listening, maybe didn't know these types of programs, these types of resources exist. Maybe there's, again, a leader out there that needs some nurturing, that you talked about nurturing that leadership gift in us. I know if it wasn't for mentors and pastors early on in my life, I would not be sitting here today.
Right.
I would be a way different person.
Right.
And it was because of them that they saw something in me. And really I've noticed as you navigate the sessions, as you work with us, you notice. You keep an eye on, and you begin to call the real person out that you see, that maybe we don't even see. Yeah. And that's a really good gift.
I appreciate it.
But share a little bit about that process of maybe somebody who's curious about, well, why would that even be valuable? I've done leadership courses. I did that in high school. I did that in college or whatever it is. Why, as professionals in early, mid, or late career, why are people drawn to this? Why is it of value?
Yeah, thank you. I'll go back a few, and then I'll kind of work my way forward.
Yeah.
The Academy is actually celebrating its 43rd year.
43 years. Yeah. It's older than me, man. Older than you, right?
Absolutely. But this is our 41st class. You're the 41st class. And so I draw to the history because there's perspective there that this work is not only valuable, but it's needed. And so, and obviously every iteration of it evolves.
Totally.
And they should, because leadership needs change over time. The community, grows and changes. And so the program has done the same.
Yeah, change is the only thing we can rely on.
Yeah. And I think from the space of, the Leadership Academy and the work we do, and I'll go back to the people side of it, it's putting individuals that walked into the room for the first time, 36 or so individuals who may or may not have known each other before that first opening session. And we put you in the room, and by this time frame right now where we're in, you feel a lot more connected than you did in August, September. Over that time frame, though, there's discussions that occur, leadership series, these leadership discussions where not only are we having conversation about improving leadership skills, but we're having discussion about improving as an individual. Whether we believe it or not, we bring our whole self to work, and we take our whole self back home.
Yes, we do.
Some of us try to leave it on the threshold, but
we're holistic. Humans are holistic. Yeah. We play this game of categorization, and it doesn't work.
Yeah.
We just lie to ourselves half the time.
Right.
Yeah.
And so knowing that, we try to incorporate that into the program as well, that it's not just training a leader for work, it's training a leader for life. And work is a part of life, but so are several other things. And so I just don't want someone to be good at doing reports. I want them to be good at doing reports, but also how they report to other people, how they build rapport with other people.
Yeah.
And so that's how we structure the program. And so we do about 10 sessions of leadership development. So we try to keep it light and fun, but there's also content we have to get through.
Just so everybody knows who's listening, Jesse thinks he's funny. He has some good jokes here and there, but I'm just playing.
I got a couple, jokes that we'll send out there.
We rely on Caitlin for the dad jokes. She's consistent. She's consistent.
I can't win them all. I can't win them all. It's okay. But that's and I'll draw back just quickly. That the Leadership Academy does a great job of bringing multidisciplinary interests. So you're not just in the room full of accountants.
Oh, it's so diverse.
Yeah, you're not just in the room, with medical professionals.
Yeah.
It's a combination. And so that's quite often literally different from a lot of other leadership development programs.
Totally.
Because it's usually based on your discipline or your industry focus.
Yeah.
And so you get that perspective from multiple individuals. And so I think that aids the impact of the program. Yeah.
No, it's good. And anybody listening who's maybe curious about it, check it out. The Madison County Leadership Academy of Madison County. I'm getting my words mixed up.
Okay.
Look it up on Google. There's a website. he's everywhere in Madison County, so you can find him. But no, it's a great program, and again continues to help anybody in any stage of life refine their leadership skills. And again, I'll say class of 24, shout out, best class ever. So
keep that tradition going.
Keep it going.
Yeah.
Last thing I'll end with is because we've talked about a bunch of different things, and I could probably guess, but I don't want to guess. I just want to ask you. Mm-hmm. When you think leadership, you've talked about place, you've talked about personal responsibility, you've talked about family or maybe community responsibility, and a few different things like that. But what would you say is that, like, every leader needs X trait, X whatever it is? What is that thing that you're like, this is sort of the secret sauce?
I think it's a willingness to serve.
A willingness to serve.
Yeah. And so service is a key ingredient to leadership. A key ingredient to leadership. Meaning, if leaders are in a space where they represent to their team, their staff, that they want to be involved in the success of the organization, but they're also involved in the failures, the challenges, the obstacles that present themselves. If they're willing to jump in and help where the help is needed, that helps to build community culture, company culture, and celebrate a truth, which is, that we're all kind of in this together.
Yeah.
One of the organizations I used to work for, I'm not going to name them, but I celebrated their company culture because it was always open door policy, even at the highest level. The CEO had open door.
Yeah.
He was the first one in the office, one of the last ones to leave. Still maintain the open door policy. Wow. Sometimes it doesn't work for everyone.
Sure.
But if you had an issue that you needed to address, and this isn't just open door policy on Tuesday, is if he's in the office, his door is open.
Doors open.
It also shows his willingness to be a part of the team.
Yeah.
But he didn't just do this from behind the desk. If we, as a company, went out to do community service, he was there. Yeah. When there was community-wide or company-wide lunch pitch-in, he had a crock pot in his hand. I don't know if he cooked it or what, but he brought.
Sometimes it's better if the boss doesn't cook. Let's be real.
He was bringing the items, and so that service mindset is important.
Yeah,
as well, because people want to know not only that their leaders have their back, but they're willing to get in the fight with them.
They're getting in the trenches with them.
Yeah,
absolutely. So you heard that, guys. Serve. Like, we need more people serving. We need that people with that servant heart, willing to humble themselves and put others first. That's what this world needs.
Yeah.
So, and I can attest. I can say confidently, Jesse, you are one of those leaders. You are one of those people who serve your community well. And so, thank you for doing that. Thank you for leading us well.
Thank you, Josh.
I said that was the last question, but I actually got one more.
Okay.
This is just a fun one.
All right.
Any fun things you want to share with the world? I don't know if the world's not listening. It's probably like 5 people. But anything you want to share with the world that you're doing outside of Leadership Academy? Anything fun coming up? Anything? You don't have to share anything if you don't want to. But
so for Christmas, my wife, my family bought me a 3D printer.
You got a 3D printer.
So,
that's what's up.
I just been making stuff.
You've been making stuff.
I made my son a Charizard, and I think I did like a little.
I think you found your new side hustle.
Yeah, I found something. But I found joy in that because, one, it gives an opportunity. It goes back to family, but like it gives bonding time with my son.
Yeah.
But it's something that we didn't think that we would connect on.
Yeah.
But then, those moments of this is going to this place, those moments of decompression where you can step away from all the activities of the world and just, pull it back and just relax and
have some fun.
Find you some you time.
Yeah.
Yeah, it takes 3 or 4 hours for it to print.
Does it really? Yeah, that ain't for the faint of heart.
It's like watching paint dry, which is it's comparable because the filament melts, and
Yeah.
But having those moments, I'm saying this to say, having those moments where you can pull back the veil a little bit,
Yeah.
and have some fun. We talked about that at a session.
Yeah.
So
Fun's a good thing.
yeah, that's where I am with my interest right now, 3D printing.
3D printing.
Yeah.
All right. Well, hey, Jesse, it was a pleasure. Thank you for making the time. Everybody, like, share, subscribe, share this podcast, let the world hear really what leadership has to do with serve your community. Thank you all for chiming in.
Thank you.
Thanks for listening to the Flagship podcast, sponsored by Pinnacle Systems. Visit our YouTube channel for the full-length video podcast, or find us on Spotify and Apple Podcasts. New podcasts are posted every month, featuring local leaders from Central Indiana. For more content, follow us on social media at Flagship Enterprise Center. Until next time, thanks for listening.